Hey there. This is really off the cuff, and I may not end up posting it, but yeah, I'm sitting here with a big kind of hangover from leaving my comfort zone, I guess. And it kind of surprises me in a way how activated I am, but also I have to give credit where it's due because I was able to do things that I might not have done earlier, you know, or I might have, um, yeah, not been able to, I don't know, stay as cool and centered as I did. But so basically, my kids' school has kind of donuts and coffee once a month for parents to get together and it's called Community by the Cup, and it's a really cool little thing. Somebody sponsors it each month, and this month it was Monroe Nichols, who is a candidate for mayor in Tulsa. Um, and the way he talked at the little get together, and just the fact that he was there, you know, he's he just seems so genuine, so like not like the usual kind of polished politician type where um, you can kind of tell he's a careerist. You can kind of tell he's not comfortable, among the sort of normal masses. I've seen that before, believe me. Yeah, anyway, he just seemed very, very genuine, very much speaking from his core, living from his core. With a long line of people in his family who are committed to public service. Um, yeah, not a careerist, not trying to wind his way to something. He just wants to do good for Tulsa, and it was so refreshing and so inspiring. Honestly, I felt a kind of love. It almost brought me to tears. Just somebody playing this human game with such authenticity and with such integrity, um and he's a black man in a city where one of the worst race massacres in our history took place, maybe the worst. Really a genocidal kind of thing, like I mean, if it was treated like Gaza, the black district that was prosperous and healthy and doing amazing things, it was treated like Gaza. It was just destroyed. Um, and it's been destroyed in so many other ways since then. And here's somebody who could take that and be bitter and resentful, and it has every right to be, but that's not the route his family took. They they've just tried to contribute to make this place better, and it's and it's inspiring, and it's also makes you look at yourself like, what the hell am I doing for anybody compared to that? uh, so anyway, he gave his little talk, and I ended up or I was talking to another father, um, and then he sort of got done talking with another group and turned around, and we were there, and so we started talking and stuff. And um, yeah, men have a way, generally speaking, of speaking from their core, speaking from kind of sitting back, speaking from their gut. as if they belong there, as if I have a right to be here. Um, Sadly, and I'm not blaming anybody for this, it's our whole culture. It's everything that we're, you know, immersed in from birth. But women have more of a way of trying to project, trying to like speaking almost from outside of themselves. Um, I know I do. I mean, I certainly I have most of my life. Uh, and there's something exhausting about that, about living it and about seeing it because you recognize it. You like, and you don't want to see that in yourself. I guess that's why it's a shadow. Um, but anyway, so the other father would kind of in just such an easy way, he would they started conversing and I was just kind of standing there and I had to kind of find my little way to wedge myself in. Um, and So anyway, we chatted for a little bit and then he shook both of our hands and talked to somebody else that he seemed to know. Um, so um, so that was that. And then as I was walking away, I was driving away actually, I realized I'd forgotten to ask him, not in a confrontational way, just a curious way about who the donors were, because he mentioned donors. He mentioned that the until he came close to winning the election, um, in October or whatever it was, uh, he didn't get a lot of big donors because nobody thought he could win. And then, somebody else, some crazy guy split the vote, and so he ended up the crazy guy got kicked out, and now it's going to be a runoff between the last two. And it's him and a 70-year-old woman who kind of puts up with Republican bullshit basically. And he's somebody who doesn't want to. I mean, he's going to call it out. He's going to struggle against bullshit. You know, not. And I just think too, not in a like a self-righteous or confrontational way. Like you could tell he's somebody who just he talks to people respectfully about differences, even if they are completely full of shit. Not as in like he doesn't take shit, but he's gonna lead with respect. And I respect that so much because I'm not always like that. And that also kind of, speaks to my own shadow that I can really judge people for being racist or for believing just incredibly stupid propaganda. Um, and I fall into that so easily, but I don't think it's helpful in the end. I don't think it's kind. I don't so like, this guy, he just seems like a better person than me. Um, and so, that's intimidating. Um, just kind of tall and handsome, and that's kind of intimidating. Uh, cool, speaks from his core. Um, and just the fact that he's black because, you know, um, speaking of shadows, I can be intimidated by black people not because of anything bad, but because often they seem at the same time comfortable in their own skins and their own being more than white people do, generally speaking. And I know that sounds, um, obviously there's privilege that comes along with being perceived as white. Uh, but there's also a kind of self-consciousness. Um, and there's a lot of shadows. There's a lot of shadows in the white psyche, in the white past, in the white present that nobody wants to look at. And so when you don't want to look at that, then it's easy to sort of project that outwards and just reject anything that makes you look at that or threatens to make you look at that. Um, and as far as me, of course, nobody thinks they're racist. I don't think I'm racist, but there's a there's a sense in which I don't blame Black people for being wary around white people at all in the slightest. You never know who, like, because I know the feeling of not wanting to get a gut punch unexpectedly, so I'm always sort of on the lookout for different things. And if I had to look out for racism too, I mean, how exhausting must that be? But it also must be quite an awful thing when you're just living your life to encounter racism when you don't expect it. So I don't blame anybody for being on the lookout for that, having some kind of radar out. And it's like I'm always thinking, how can I help them feel like I'm not a threat without coming across as some sort of do good, well-intentioned, white liberal who just, wants to I don't know, uh virtue signal or whatever. Because I'm sure that gets exhausting too. So it's like what you really just want to be as a person, but given that the reality of racism is always in the air, I don't know. So it's like I want to do the best I can, and I don't always know exactly what that is. And yeah, so that's another factor. So anyway, for all these reasons, I was a little bit intimidated, and this is the kind of thing where, and also he's very well groomed, like, how politicians always look like they got their hair cut that morning and the pressed suit and all that kind of stuff. Um, so just, I mean, all in all, somebody that historically would have been very hard for me to have a conversation with, because I mean, when I see people like that, I just feel like some like little rag doll or something, like just pathetic compared to, or that like I might be perceived like that. Um, that I might prove, that that's what I am with my sort of weird, you know, behavior or insecurity, or that way of always trying to speak from outside of yourself, project something outside of yourself. So yeah, anyway, as I was driving away, I realized I didn't ask him about his donors, and I was curious about that. I thought it might spark an interesting conversation too. Um, and so I turned around, I came back, parked right next to where they were, and went back to him when he was talking to the person that he knew. And I asked him that question, and I told him, like, I'm not trying to call you out. I know this is how it works, but I'm just curious. And he named some names that I some of them I didn't know. Some of them are prominent, like Jewish families in Tulsa who, um, fund a lot of YMCA's and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of public works. And not public works, public goods like arts and yeah, museums. So libraries. So he was very clear that in all cases there was no quid pro quo. And now, of course, they might call him later and say like, "Hey, I gave you all this money. This is my priority." But he's saying like that's not who he is, and I believe him. Like he just doesn't seem like somebody who is like that. And he said also, "I don't want to be anything but mayor. I'm not trying to be. I don't want to be governor. I don't want to be president." He said everybody in the legislature, the Oklahoma State legislature thinks they're going to be president of the United States someday. He's like, "No, I just want to contribute to this community that I'm a part of, and I think I can do it." And like really, it brings tears to my eyes because, I mean, playing this game with that kind of heart and that kind of confidence, um, it's beautiful. And that kind of humility too, like, yeah, just he's like, "Look, I'm gonna be who I am and let the chips fall where they may." And it's working, and it's beautiful to see that. Um, so so yeah, I turned around and went back, asked him about that, and he gave me his personal email. He said, "Yeah, just email me here if you ever have questions, and I'll be happy to give you a list of donors and whatever." And I was like, it wasn't really about the donors. It was just I just kind of wanted to have an interesting conversation with an interesting person about how things, work here, because he has an insider view. And yeah, he said, what he said, 20%, I think, of Congress people in the US, legislature, they have straight up quid pro quo relationships with donors, and they're not even shy about it. He says he doesn't know how they haven't been indicted. And then not only that, but they influence other people to do the same things that their donors want them to do. So it's, I almost don't know how people make it who aren't like that. Um, anyway, so that all went fine, even though, of course, I had that old I'm a pathetic rag doll feeling. I kind of was able to, I don't know what the word is, sublimate, repress, or just kind of skate over, or just kind of set aside those feelings. That old, yeah, and just speak to him. And I don't know how I came across. I don't know. But uh, the thing is, it was like it's okay. That's the difference. Is now I'm not sitting here like beating myself. Oh my god, how did he think I was a loser? Whatever. I'm just like, I did my best. I had an interesting conversation with an interesting person. Um, whatever he thinks is whatever he thinks. It's fine. It's totally fine. But I still, on the inside, I have this. I have this big hangover feeling, and that's fine too. That's fine too. I'm not going to add more arrows to that. Um, and I'm going to keep doing my best and letting the chips fall where they fall. And when I get activated like this, I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm not going to um, assume anything about how I came across. I did my best. That's it. That's all I can do. That's all anybody can do. And I did a thing that's hard for me, and that's good. That's that's great. So I don't feel bad. I feel activated. I feel like I have a hangover, but not in a bad way. Not in um, a way that is going to ruin my day. Uh, there's an impulse to be like, God damn, girl, you're 44 years old. Why do you still act like a middle school like weirdo when you meet somebody cool? Um, and when that impulse comes, they say like, it is what it is. It is what it is. That's it. Um, I can't be anything other than who and what I am. And it's not perfect, and it's not elegant and cool, and whatever other kind of identity structure you want to try to put on it. It is what it is. It just is what it is. So, so that's it. Just wanted to get that down on video, I guess. Cheers.